Welcome to Ian Cinema, your destination for endless entertainment and unforgettable movie moments. Discover exciting films, inspiring stories, and cinematic journeys across every genre. Whether you love action, drama, thrillers, or timeless favorites, there's always something waiting for you here. Sit back, enjoy the experience, and let Ian Cinema bring the magic of movies to your screen. Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl, 2003, is an American fantasy swashbuckler directed by Gore Verbinski and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. Released by Buena Vista Pictures under the Walt Disney Pictures banner, the film is inspired by Disney's iconic Pirates of the Caribbean theme park attraction and serves as the first installment in the blockbuster film franchise. The movie stars Johnny Depp as the eccentric pirate Captain Jack Sparrow, alongside Jeffrey Rush, Orlando Bloom, and Keira Knightley. The story follows Jack Sparrow and blacksmith Will Turner as they set out to rescue the kidnapped Elizabeth Swann. Their dangerous journey leads them into a confrontation with the feared Captain Hector Barbossa and the crew of the Black Pearl, who are trapped under a mysterious supernatural curse. Development of the film began in 2000 when Walt Disney Studios commissioned an initial story treatment. J. Walpert wrote the first screenplay in 2001, which was later revised by Stuart Beattie in early 2002. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer soon joined the project and brought in writers Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, who had previously developed a pirate adventure concept during the 1990s. They introduced the supernatural curse, making the story more closely reflect the atmosphere of the original Disney attraction. Gore Verbinski later signed on as director, and filming took place between October 2002 and March 2003 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as on studio sets in Los Angeles, California. The film premiered at Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, California, on June 28, 2003, before opening in U.S. theaters on July 9. Although expectations were modest before release, it became one of the year's biggest box office successes, earning more than $654.3 million worldwide and finishing as the fourth highest grossing film of 2003. Critics responded positively, with Johnny Depp's unforgettable performance as Captain Jack Sparrow receiving widespread praise. He won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor and earned nominations for the Academy Award, BAFTA Award, and Golden Globe Awards. The film also received several additional Oscar and BAFTA nominations. Its enormous success launched a long-running franchise with 4 sequels: Dead Man's Chest, 2006, At World's End, 2007, On Stranger Tides, 2011, and Dead Men Tell No Tales, 2017. Plot set in the early 18th century, the story begins as Governor Weatherby Swan and his young daughter Elizabeth sail aboard the HMS Dauntless, commanded by Lieutenant James Norrington. After discovering a shipwreck, they rescue a young boy named Will Turner. Elizabeth notices a mysterious gold medallion around Will's neck and secretly takes it while he is unconscious. Moments later, she catches sight of a ghostly pirate ship disappearing into the mist. 8 years later, life in Port Royal, Jamaica, has changed. Norrington is about to be promoted to Commodore, Will has become a skilled blacksmith, and the notorious pirate Captain Jack Sparrow arrives in town searching for a ship. During Norrington's promotion ceremony, he proposes marriage to Elizabeth, overcome by the tight corset she is wearing. Elizabeth faints and falls into the sea. The gold medallion she carries emits a strange pulse before she hits the water. Jack Sparrow drives in and saves her, unknowingly drawing attention to the medallion. Once his identity as a pirate is revealed, Governor Swan orders his arrest. Jack escapes briefly but is eventually captured after an intense sword fight with Will Turner. That very night, the fearsome crew of the Black Pearl attacks Port Royal in search of the mysterious medallion. Elizabeth is kidnapped after introducing herself as Elizabeth Turner, leading Captain Hector Barbossa to believe she is connected to the missing treasure. Barbossa reveals the truth behind the curse. The medallion is one of 882 Aztec gold coins originally given to her and Corte copyright S to halt his massacre of the Aztecs. After stealing the cursed treasure from Isla de Muerta, Barbossa and his crew are transformed into immortal undead skeletons who can neither feel pleasure nor pain. To break the curse, every stolen coin must be returned along with the blood of each pirate. Only one coin remains missing, and the one belonging to Bootstrap Bill Turner, who had been cast overboard after opposing the mutiny. Mistakenly believing Elizabeth to be Bootstrap Bill's daughter, Barbossa plans to use her blood in the ritual. Determined to rescue Elizabeth, Will frees Jack from prison, and together they steal the HMS Interceptor. They travel to Tortuga, where Jack recruits a pirate crew with the help of his old friend Joshua Gibbs. Gibbs reveals that Jack was once the rightful captain of the Black Pearl before Barbossa led a mutiny, stole the ship, and abandoned Jack on a deserted island. The rescue mission leads them to Isla de Muerta, where Barbossa attempts to lift the curse using Elizabeth's blood, but the ritual fails. Will and Elizabeth escape with the medallion, while Jack is captured and imprisoned aboard the Black Pearl. A fierce naval battle follows, leaving the Interceptor badly damaged. Will soon discovers that Bootstrap Bill Turner was actually his father. Hoping to save everyone else, he surrenders to Barbossa but threatens to take his own life unless Elizabeth and Jack's crew are released. Barbossa imprisons the crew and abandons Jack and Elizabeth on the very island where Jack had once been marooned. Jack explains that the island had secretly been used by rum smugglers, who rescued him only 3 days after he was abandoned. Elizabeth burns the hidden rum supply to create a massive signal fire, allowing the Royal Navy to locate and rescue them. In return, she agrees to marry Norrington if he promises to save Will. Jack and Norrington then devise a plan to ambush Barbossa's crew at Isla de Muerta. Jack secretly joins the pirates and convinces Barbossa to postpone breaking the curse until after eliminating the Royal Navy soldiers. Once Barbossa leaves, Jack frees Will and confronts Barbossa in a final duel. Having secretly taken one of the cursed coins, Jack temporarily becomes immortal himself, allowing him to fight Barbossa on equal terms. Meanwhile, Elizabeth frees Jack's pirate crew aboard the Black Pearl, although they initially sail away without helping her. At the decisive moment, Will returns both missing medallions to the treasure chest and offers his blood, finally breaking the curse. Jack immediately shoots Barbossa, who dies as the curse is lifted, while the remaining pirates are quickly defeated by the Royal Navy. Back in Port Royal, Jack is sentenced to hang for piracy. Before the execution can take place, Will publicly declares his love for Elizabeth and rescues Jack. Surrounded by soldiers, the pair seem trapped until Elizabeth stands beside Will, forcing Governor Swan to stop the confrontation. Jack escapes by diving into the sea, where the Black Pearl arrives to pick him up. Recognizing that Elizabeth truly loves Will, Norrington allows Jack a head start before giving chase. Governor Swan blesses Will and Elizabeth's relationship, while Jack Sparrow once again takes command of the Black Pearl and sails toward his next adventure. Post-credits scene. After the credits, Barbossa's pet monkey returns to the treasure cave on Isla de Muerta. Climbing onto the chest of cursed gold, it steals one of the remaining coins and instantly becomes undead, hinting that the curse may not be gone forever. Cast: Johnny Depp stars as Captain Jack Sparrow, a legendary pirate known for his unsteady swagger, slurred speech, and animated hand gestures. His primary goal is to reclaim his beloved ship, the Black Pearl. Jeffrey Rush plays Captain Hector Barbossa, the ruthless captain of the Black Pearl. Once Jack Sparrow's trusted first mate, Barbossa led a mutiny, seized the ship, and stole cursed Aztec gold, leaving him and his crew trapped as immortal undead pirates. Orlando Bloom portrays Will Turner, a talented blacksmith's apprentice in Port Royal who is deeply in love with Elizabeth Swan. Throughout the story, Will struggles with the truth that his father was once a pirate. Keira Knightley plays Elizabeth Swan, the adventurous daughter of Governor Weatherby Swan, fascinated by pirates since childhood. Elizabeth shares a strong bond with Will Turner while becoming increasingly drawn into the pirate world. Lucinda Driscoll appears as the young Elizabeth Swann. Jack Davenport stars as Commodore James Norrington, a respected Royal Navy officer determined to marry Elizabeth. Kevin R. McNally plays Joshua Gibbs, Jack Sparrow's loyal first mate and a former member of the Royal Navy. Zoe Saldi +- portrays Anna Maria, a spirited pirate seeking revenge after Jack steals her ship. Screenwriter Terry Rossio later revealed that the name Anna Maria was inspired by his daughter's middle name. Jonathan Pryce appears as Governor Weatherby Swan, Elizabeth's father and the Governor of Port Royal. Treva Etienne plays Collar, one of Barbassa's cursed lieutenants who eventually meets his end at the hands of Norrington. David Bailey portrays Cotton, a pirate whose tongue has been cut out, forcing his loyal parrot to speak on his behalf. Leah Renberg plays Pinta, a slow-witted yet entertaining member of Barbassa's cursed crew. Mackenzie Crook appears as Ray Getty, the eccentric pirate famous for his wooden eye. Isaac C. Singleton Jr. portrays Bossum, Barbassa's dependable first mate. Martin Kleba plays Marty, a dwarf pirate who later joins Jack Sparrow's crew aboard the Interceptor. Damien O'Hara appears as Lieutenant Gillette, Commodore Norrington's trusted second-in-command. Vince Lozano portrays Jacoby, a member of the cursed crew with a talent for handling explosives. Supporting roles include cursed pirates Grapple, Trevor Goddard, Malott, Bry Cooper, and Twig. Michael Berry Jr., along with Greg Ellis as a British officer. The comic relief soldiers Murtagh and Mulroy are played by Giles New and Angus Barnett, respectively. Production development. The journey to bring Pirates of the Caribbean to the big screen began in 2001 when Jay Wolpert wrote a screenplay inspired by Disney's iconic theme park ride. The original story, created by Disney executives Brigham Taylor, Michael Haynes, and Josh Harmon, centered on Will Turner, who served as a prison guard and freed Jack Sparrow to rescue Elizabeth Swann from the pirate Captain Blackheart. In March 2002, Disney hired Stuart Beattie to rewrite the script, largely because of his knowledge of pirate history. Beattie later explained that the idea of adapting the ride into a film came to him years earlier while casually throwing a frisbee with a friend, during an exchange program at Oregon State University in 1991. He completed an early draft titled Quest for the Caribbean. Meanwhile, screenwriters Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio had been interested in adapting the ride since the early 1990s. After finishing work on Disney's Aladdin, 1992, they pitched a pirate adventure to studio executives, but the idea failed to gain support. Rather than abandon the concept, they patiently waited for the right opportunity. Having already collaborated with Disney on projects including Treasure Planet, 2002, they were eventually brought on to Pirates of the Caribbean to reshape the story with stronger supernatural elements. Elliott and Rossio ultimately received the screenplay credit, while all four writers shared story credit. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer joined the project after Disney executive Dick Cook convinced him to come aboard. Bruckheimer immediately rejected Wolpert's original script, believing it was simply a straight pirate movie. Instead, Elliott and Rossio proposed making the mysterious supernatural curse he hinted at in the original Disney attraction at the heart of the film's story. At one stage, Disney was uncertain whether the project deserved a theatrical release or should go straight to home video. The studio initially considered Matthew McConaughey for the role of Jack Sparrow because his appearance resembled Burt Lancaster, who had inspired the original version of the character. If the film had been produced as a direct-to-video release, Christopher Walken or Cary Elwes would have been considered for the lead role instead. In May 2002, Gore Verbinski officially signed on as director. He was excited by the opportunity to revive the long-forgotten pirate adventure genre using modern filmmaking technology. Having fond childhood memories of the Disney attraction, Verbinski wanted the movie to capture the same unique blend of humor, mystery, and thrills. Despite strong support from Dick Cook, the disappointing box office performance of The Country Bears, 2002, caused Disney CEO Michael Eisner to question the future of another theme park adaptation. He even attempted to halt production. However, Verbinski quietly encouraged his concept artists to continue developing the film. When Eisner later reviewed their artwork, he was so impressed by the visuals that the project moved forward. According to the book Disney War, Eisner questioned why the film required such a large budget. Bruckheimer responded that rival franchises such as The Lord of the Rings and The Matrix were spending around $150 million, making a similar investment necessary to compete. Eisner ultimately agreed but insisted that some of the ride's most recognizable references be removed from the screenplay to avoid making the film feel like a direct attraction adaptation. One example was a sequence in which Jack Sparrow and Will Turner entered a cave through a waterfall. Another notable change was the addition of the subtitle The Curse of the Black Pearl. The subtitle was intended to establish the film as the beginning of a franchise if it proved successful. Verbinski objected, arguing that the cursed object was the Aztec gold rather than the ship itself. Nevertheless, Eisner insisted on keeping the subtitle. At Verbinski's request, however, the subtitle appeared in very small text on most posters and trailers, making it barely noticeable. Influence of the Monkey Island games before Pirates of the Caribbean reached theaters. Ted Elliott was reportedly developing an animated adaptation of The Curse of Monkey Island, produced by George Lucas. The project was said to be in development at Industrial Light Magic but was cancelled before it was ever officially announced. Following the release of Pirates of the Caribbean, Monkey Island creator Ron Gilbert humorously remarked that the films, particularly the second installment, shared noticeable similarities with his beloved adventure game series. Gilbert has also explained that his games were primarily inspired by Tim Power's 1987 novel On Stranger Tides, which later served as the basis for the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean film. Screenwriter Terry Rossio later revealed that Disney faced at least 6 plagiarism lawsuits following the release of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. The lawsuits alleged that the film borrowed ideas from both the Monkey Island video games and the novel On Stranger Tides. Rossio dismissed the claims, pointing out that the film was fundamentally inspired by Disney's long-running theme park attraction and earlier screenplay drafts developed independently of those works. Casting screenwriter Stuart Beattie, who wrote some of the earliest drafts of the screenplay, originally envisioned Hugh Jackman as Captain Jack Sparrow. However, because Jackman was not yet widely recognized outside Australia, the role ultimately went to the more internationally known Johnny Depp. Depp was immediately drawn to the script because it broke away from traditional pirate stories. Instead of searching for hidden treasure, the crew of the Black Pearl was trying to return a cursed fortune, and the expected pirate mutiny had already taken place before the story began. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer initially imagined Sparrow as a confident, swashbuckling pirate in the style of a young Burt Lancaster. Jim Carrey was also considered for the role, but scheduling conflicts with Bruce Almighty prevented his involvement. Michael Keaton and Christopher Walken were also among the actors considered before Depp was finally cast. Bruckheimer believed Depp could bring a fresh and distinctive edge to the character. At the first table read, Depp surprised the cast and crew with his unconventional interpretation of Jack Sparrow. After studying 18th century pirates, he concluded they were the rock stars of their era and modeled Sparrow's personality partly on Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. Although director Gore Verbinski and producer Jerry Bruckheimer supported Depp's creative vision, especially since Orlando Bloom's Will Turner represented the more traditional heroic figure, Disney executives were initially confused. Some questioned whether Sparrow was meant to be drunk or gay, and then Disney CEO Michael Eisner even remarked that Depp was ruining the film. Depp also proposed several unusual ideas for Sparrow's appearance. One concept involved a pirate missing his nose, replaced by a bloody wound, which would have given him a comical fear of catching a cold. Sparrow would also have avoided pepper and even water, creating an ironic challenge for a seafaring pirate. Those ideas were ultimately abandoned. Even Bruckheimer had reservations when Depp insisted on giving Sparrow gold-capped teeth. Looking back, Depp recalled telling the filmmakers, These are the choices I made. You know my work. Either trust me or give me the boot." Fortunately, they choose to trust his instincts. Director Gore Verbinski specifically sought Geoffrey Rush to play Captain Hector Barbossa, believing he would portray the villain with straightforward menace rather than unnecessary complexity, perfectly matching the film's adventurous tone. Rush, however, viewed Barbossa quite differently. He saw him as the story's overlooked hero, a pirate whose greatest wish was simply to break the curse and enjoy life as a wealthy rogue alongside his beloved pirate bride. To deepen his performance, Rush developed an extensive backstory for the character. Rush was originally the second choice for Barbossa after Robert De Niro, who declined the role because he expected the film to fail like several earlier pirate movies. Barbossa was ultimately designed as Sparrow's dark counterpart, a cunning trickster and ruthless villain. Interestingly, the name Hector Barbossa was created by Johnny Depp during filming, although it was never spoken aloud in the finished movie. Several actors were considered for the role of Will Turner, including Tobey Maguire, Jude Law, Ewan McGregor, Ben Payton, Christopher Masterson, Christian Bale, Tom Hiddleston, and Heath Ledger. Geoffrey Rush recommended Orlando Bloom after Bloom read the script, and he was eventually cast. Tom Wilkinson was considered for the role of Governor Swan, while Brian Cox declined the part because he preferred not to work with Depp. The role ultimately went to Jonathan Pryce, an actor whom Depp greatly admired. Filming and design. Gore Verbinski wanted the film to feel less like a romanticized pirate adventure and more like a historical fantasy with a believable atmosphere. To achieve this, many cast members wore prosthetic makeup and specialized contact lenses. Depp's contact lenses functioned like sunglasses, while Geoffrey Rush and Leah Remberg wore dulled lenses that gave their characters a darker, more sinister appearance. Mackenzie Crook used two different contact lenses to portray his characters, i.e. one soft lens for normal scenes and a harder version for moments when the eye protruded. The actor's teeth and skin were also altered with makeup to create the weathered, scurvy-ridden appearance of longtime pirates. Depp even carried an authentic pistol that had been manufactured in London in 1760. While master blacksmith Tony Swanton crafted many of the swords used throughout the production. The art department spent 5 months constructing the massive treasure cavern where Barbossa and the crew of the Black Pearl attempt to lift their curse. The set contained 5 feet of water, 882 gold coins, and foam rocks painted gold to create the illusion of an enormous treasure hoard. The Port Royal Fortress was built in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, while Governor Swan's mansion was constructed in Manhattan Beach. During production, a fire broke out in September 2002, causing approximately $525,000 in damage. Though fortunately no one was injured, the filmmakers selected St. Vincent as their primary filming location because it offered one of the quietest beaches they could find. They built 3 large piers along with extensive backlot sets representing Port Royal and Tortuga. The production centered around 3 iconic ships, the Black Pearl, Dauntless, and Interceptor. To reduce costs, most of the ships were constructed on docks, with only 6 days spent filming on the open ocean during the battle between the Black Pearl and the Interceptor. Both the Black Pearl and Dauntless were built on barges, while computer-generated imagery completed parts of their structures. The Black Pearl was also constructed on the famous Spruce Goose soundstage, allowing filmmakers to control lighting and atmospheric effects such as fog. The Interceptor was created by transforming the Lady Washington, a full-scale replica sailing ship from Aberdeen, Washington. After being completely repainted, the vessel embarked on a 40-day voyage beginning on December 2, 2002, before arriving at the filming location on January 12, 2003. A miniature version of the ship was also built specifically for the storm sequence. Principal photography began on October 9, 2002. And concluded on March 7, 2003. Despite the tight production schedule, filming encountered only a few minor accidents. During one scene in which Jack Sparrow steals the Interceptor, several ropes failed to snap on cue. When they finally broke, Flying debris struck Johnny Depp's knee. Fortunately, he escaped injury, and the unexpected moment looked as though Sparrow had intentionally ducked. Another memorable mishap occurred when the small boat Sparrow was supposed to arrive in at Port Royal unexpectedly sank. Filming moved between several locations throughout production. In October, scenes were shot in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. By December, the crew had relocated to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, while January was spent filming inside the elaborate Treasure Cavern set in Los Angeles. The screenplay continued evolving during production, with writers Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio making revisions directly on set. Among the additions was Gibbs' humorous story explaining how Sparrow supposedly escaped from a deserted island by tying two sea turtles together with rope made from his own back hair. Jonathan Pryce's Governor Swan was also given a larger role during the climactic battle to maintain an emotional connection for the audience. Because of the demanding production schedule, Industrial Light Magic began creating visual effects almost immediately. Although the cursed skeletal pirates appeared on screen for only a limited time, the visual effects team knew their digital versions had to perfectly capture the actors' performances for the transformations to feel convincing. Every scene involving the cursed pirates was filmed twice, once with the actors and again without theme, so the skeleton effects could be seamlessly added later. Verbinski's decision to shoot many action scenes with handheld cameras made this process even more technically challenging. The actors also had to recreate their performances on a motion capture stage to help the visual effects team achieve realistic animations. Filming wrapped just 4 months before the movie's release, forcing Gore Verbinski to spend exhausting 18-hour days in the editing room. In total, the film featured around 600 visual effects shots, including approximately 250 dedicated solely to digitally removing modern sailboats that accidentally appeared in the background. Music. The musical score for Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl was composed by Klaus Badelt, conducted by Blake Neely, and performed by the Hollywood Studio Symphony. Hans Zimmer served as the music producer, while several additional composers including Jeff Zanelli and Raymond Jaadia contributed to the soundtrack. Director Gore Verbinski closely supervised the score alongside Badelt and Zimmer, who led a team of 15 composers to complete the music within a tight production schedule. Originally, acclaimed composer Alan Silvestri, who had previously worked with Verbinski on Mouse Hunt and The Mexicana, was hired to score the film. However, he left the project before recording any music due to creative differences with producer Jerry Bruckheimer. After Silvestri's departure, Verbinski and Bruckheimer turned to Hans Zimmer and his team, who had collaborated on many of their previous productions. Although Zimmer was committed to scoring The Last Samurai and couldn't take on the entire project, he recommended Klaus Badelt, a rising composer who had been part of Remote Control Productions, then known as Media Ventures, for 3 years. At the time, Badelt's film credits included The Time Machine, The Recruit, K-19, The Widowmaker, and Basic. Zimmer still played an important creative role by working closely with Badelt to develop many of the film's main musical themes. According to Zimmer, he composed much of the core material in a single night and produced a fully synthesized demo, which was credited to him. The demo introduced 3 of the soundtrack's major themes, including an early version of the iconic He's a Pirate. This initial version differed from the final recording and featured the melody Zimmer had previously written for Drop Zone. The song Elizabeth Swann sings as a child at the beginning of the film and later while stranded on the island with Jack Sparrow as Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me. Written by George Bruns with lyrics by Xavier Exotencio. The song is best known as the signature tune of the Pirates of the Caribbean attractions at Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. Marketing. On August 22, 2002, IGN's Film Force published an early preview of the film's story after receiving information from an anonymous source before filming officially began in October. The first teaser poster and trailer, released while the film was simply titled Pirates of the Caribbean, debuted on December 17, 2002. The teaser contained only a single second of actual movie footage and was shown alongside The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers in theaters. It was also made available on Disney's official website. On April 6, 2003, Disney released the first full trailer, now featuring the subtitle The Curse of the Black Pearl. The trailer aired across all Disney-owned television networks and was also released online, with some versions featuring a special introduction by Orlando Bloom. Release rating: Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl became the first film released under the Walt Disney Pictures banner to receive a PG-13 rating from the Motion Picture Association of America. The rating was given for its action and adventure violence. One Disney executive even remarked that she felt the film was too intense for her 5-year-old child. While media: The film was released on DVD and VHS in the United Kingdom on December 1, 2003, and in the United States on December 2, 2003. It sold an impressive 11 million copies during its first week, setting a new record for a live-action home video release. By January 2004, DVD sales had generated approximately $235 million in revenue. The THX-certified DVD was a 2-disc special edition featuring 3 audio commentary tracks, one with Johnny Depp and Gore Verbinski, another with Jerry Bruckheimer, Keira Knightley, and Jack Davenport, and a third with the screenwriters. It also included deleted scenes, behind-the-scenes documentaries, and a 1968 Disneyland television special highlighting the original Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. A 3-disc collector's edition followed in November 2004 in the United States and in April 2005 in the United Kingdom. The film later arrived on the PlayStation Portable (PSP) on April 19, 2005. A high-definition Blu-ray edition was released in May 2007. Making it one of the earliest films available through the iTunes Store. In the United Kingdom, the film premiered on BBC One on Christmas Eve 2007 and attracted an estimated audience of 7 million viewers. In January 2022, The Curse of the Black Pearl received an Ultra HD Blu-ray release. However, the remastered edition faced widespread criticism from online reviewers. Many argued that the transfer appeared to be upscaled from a 2K source and suffered from heavy digital noise reduction, resulting in a softer, less detailed image. Reviewers also pointed to artificial sharpening, reduced film grain, and waxy-looking textures. Blu-ray.com reviewer Martin Liebman described the release as a disappointing upgrade, noting that it looked less natural and visually inferior to the original 2007 Blu-ray edition. 2023 theatrical re-release to celebrate Disney's 100th anniversary. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl returned to theaters from July 7 to July 20, 2023. The special re-release also marked the film's 20th anniversary, giving audiences the opportunity to experience the beloved pirate adventure on the big screen once again. Reception: box office. Before Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl hit theaters, many industry experts predicted it would fail at the box office. Pirate-themed films had struggled for years, with Cutthroat Island, 1995, often cited as one of Hollywood's biggest financial disasters. At the time, Johnny Depp was best known for his performances in cult classics rather than mainstream blockbusters. However, The Curse of the Black Pearl completely changed that, establishing him as one of Hollywood's leading stars. The film earned an impressive $13.5 million on its opening day. It debuted at number 1, outperforming Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. During its opening weekend, it grossed $46.6 million, while its total earnings reached $70.6 million after opening on a Wednesday. Its strong launch surpassed Armageddon to become Disney's biggest July opening weekend at the time, a record it held until The Village was released the following year. The film also marked the biggest opening weekend of both Gore Verbinski's directing career and Johnny Depp's acting career, surpassing The Mexican and Sleepy Hollow. Depp's personal record remained unbeaten until Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was released in 2005. Throughout its theatrical run, The Curse of the Black Pearl outperformed the animated pirate adventure Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, and remained one of the summer's biggest hits alongside Disney's own Finding Nemo. Although it dropped to second place behind Bad Boys 2 in its second weekend, it still earned another $34 million. By the end of its theatrical run, the film had grossed $654.3 million worldwide, including $305.4 million in North America and $348.9 million internationally. It became the fourth highest-grossing film of 2003 and joined Finding Nemo, Bruce Almighty, X2, and The Matrix Reloaded as one of the first 5 movies to surpass $200 million domestically during the same summer season. According to Box Office Mojo, the film sold an estimated 50.6 million tickets in the United States alone. Internationally, the movie dominated the global box office for 7 consecutive weekends, tying the record previously held by Men in Black 2. The achievement was later surpassed by its own sequel, Dead Man's Chest, along with Avatar and the Smurfs. As of February 2021, it ranked as the 141st highest-grossing film of all time. Critical response: Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl received largely positive reviews from both critics and audiences. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds a 79% approval rating based on 216 reviews, with an average score of 7.3. The site's critical consensus states that while the movie may leave viewers feeling as exhausted as the Disney theme park ride that inspired it, it's an entertaining experience from beginning to end. On Metacritic, the film earned a score of 63 out of 100 based on 40 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Moviegoers surveyed by CinemaScore awarded it an impressive A grade, reflecting strong audience satisfaction. Critics praised the film's humor, action, and adventurous spirit. Alan Morrison of Empire described it as the best blockbuster of the summer, applauding its comedy while feeling that some of the sword-fighting sequences could have been stronger. Dwayne Dudick of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel awarded it 3 out of 4 stars, calling it a fast-paced, witty, and visually exciting adventure reminiscent of films such as The Mummy, The Princess Bride, and The Mask of Zorro. Gregory Wyckoff of the Dallas Observer admitted that, despite the film's excessive length and larger-than-life style, he still found it highly enjoyable. The standout element for nearly every reviewer was Johnny Depp's unforgettable performance as Captain Jack Sparrow. Pop Matters praised Depp for creating a mesmerizing and imaginative character that captured the film's adventurous spirit. Real Views critic James Berardinelli went even further, arguing that the movie belonged entirely to Depp and that without his performance, it would have been an ordinary and uninspired adventure film. Legendary film critic Roger Ebert also praised both Johnny Depp and Geoffrey Rush, describing Depp's portrayal as completely original and unlike any pirate or any movie character seen before. However, Ebert believed the film was somewhat too long, a criticism shared by Kenneth Turan, who felt it devoted excessive time to its supporting pirate characters and oversized action sequences despite enjoying Depp's performance. In contrast, critic Mark Kermode dismissed the film, calling it an example of flashy theme park entertainment taking precedence over true cinematic storytelling. More than 2 decades after its release, the film's reputation has continued to grow. In 2025, readers of the New York Times voted it into the newspaper's Reader's Choice edition of the 100 Best Movies of the 21st Century, where it finished at number 188. Awards and recognition. Johnny Depp's iconic portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow earned widespread acclaim and numerous awards. He won Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Leading Role at the 10th Screen Actors Guild Awards, Best Male Performance at the 2004 MTV Movie Awards, and Best Actor at the 9th Empire Awards. His performance also received nominations for Best Actor a Motion Picture Musical or Comedy at the 61st Golden Globe Awards, Best Actor in a Leading Role at the 57th British Academy Film Awards, BAFTA, and Best Actor at the 76th Academy Awards. The film itself earned 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Makeup, Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Visual Effects. Among its major wins were Best Makeup/Hair at the BAFTA Awards, the Saturn Award for Best Costumes, the Golden Reel Award for Sound Editing, 2 Visual Effects Society Awards, and the People's Choice Award for Favorite Motion Picture. American Film Institute recognition. The film also received nominations on 2 prestigious American Film Institute lists. A Sense of His 100 Years. 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition. A nominated. A Sense of His 10 Top 10 A Fantasy Films. A nominated sequels and franchise expansion. The enormous critical and commercial success of The Curse of the Black Pearl transformed Pirates of the Caribbean into one of Disney's biggest multimedia franchises, expanding beyond films into books, video games, and theme park attractions. Although the first film was originally intended to stand alone, writers Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio ultimately developed it as the beginning of a trilogy. This led to 2 back-to-back sequels: Dead Man's Chest, 2006, and At World's End, 2007. Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, Jeffrey Rush, and Kevin McNally all returned to reprise their roles. A short prequel titled Tales of the Code, Wedlocked was later directed by James Ward Burkett, who had served as a creative consultant during the original trilogy. The franchise continued with On Stranger Tides in 2011. Disney had acquired the rights to Tim Power's novel of the same name during production of the earlier sequels. Since the storylines of Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann had concluded and both Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley chose not to return, the 4th film shifted its focus toward Captain Jack Sparrow's continuing adventures. Johnny Depp, Jeffrey Rush, Kevin McNally, Greg Ellis, and Damien O'Hare reprised their roles. The 5th installment, Dead Men Tell No Tales, was released in 2017. Initially planned as another standalone sequel, the project underwent several creative changes. Original writer Terry Rossio's screenplay was ultimately replaced, with Jeff Nathanson taking over script duties. Directors Joachim R. A. Sedilling and Espen Sandberg cited The Curse of the Black Pearl as a major inspiration for their approach. Depp, Rush, McNally, Martin Klebb, Giles New, and Angus Barnett all returned, while Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley made surprise cameo appearances despite earlier reports suggesting they would not return. An untitled 6th Pirates of the Caribbean film remains in development, with producer Jerry Bruckheimer attached to the project once again. One aspect of the film that felt somewhat forced was the romance between Elizabeth Swann and Will Turner. At times, it seemed like the relationship existed simply because they were the main male and female characters, making the romance feel more like a storytelling convention than something that developed naturally. Even so, the romantic storyline served an important purpose. It became one of the film's main driving forces, bringing Jack Sparrow and Will Turner together in an unlikely partnership while also creating tension through Jack's growing connection with Elizabeth. This subtle love triangle added another layer to the story, although I would have approached the narrative differently, placing greater emphasis on the conflict between pirates and the Royal Navy. The romance ultimately worked well enough within the context of the film. It also helped that Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley shared strong on-screen chemistry, making their relationship far more convincing than it might have been on paper. One of the film's biggest challenges is that it often feels like it's trying to be 2 different movies at once. On one hand, it presents a fairly complex political storyline, which can seem more sophisticated than what younger audiences might fully appreciate. On the other hand, the filmmakers balance the darker themes with plenty of humor and light-hearted moments, making the adventure more accessible for families. While this playful tone occasionally weakens the more serious aspects of the story, it also gives the film its unique personality and broad appeal. Today, the term game changer is often overused, but it genuinely applies to Pirates of the Caribbean. The Curse of the Black Pearl, the film exceeded expectations, became one of Disney's highest-grossing releases, and transformed a theme park attraction into one of Hollywood's most successful blockbuster franchises. Nearly 2 decades after its original release, it remains one of Disney's most beloved adventure films. To celebrate the film's legacy, Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment released Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl on 4K Ultra HD. While the movie certainly deserves the upgrade, whether the new edition justifies its premium price is another question. The story follows blacksmith Will Turner and governor's daughter Elizabeth Swann, who become caught in a thrilling adventure after the eccentric Captain Jack Sparrow arrives in Port Royal, determined to reclaim his legendary ship, the Black Pearl. Together, they face Captain Barbossa and his crew, who are trapped under a mysterious supernatural curse. Given the popularity of the franchise, a 4K release was inevitable. Most studios would have launched the entire series together in a complete box set. Disney has done exactly that in some international markets, including Japan, where all 5 films were released in a 4K collection. In the United States, however, only The Curse of the Black Pearl initially received an individual physical 4K release. The packaging is noticeably simpler than many previous Disney Collector's Editions. It lacks the Ultimate Collector's Edition branding, most likely because many of the bonus features included in earlier releases are absent from this edition. The biggest disappointment, however, isn't the missing extras, it's the 4K transfer itself. A true 4K remaster should offer noticeably sharper image quality, finer detail, and a richer, more vibrant color range. While some scenes reveal slightly improved detail compared to the Blu-ray, the difference is far less significant than expected. Color reproduction is another area where the release falls short. Surprisingly, the image often appears more muted than the Blu-ray. In side-by-side comparisons, elements such as the brighter blue skies look more vibrant and lively on the older Blu-ray, while the 4K version presents a softer, less saturated appearance, which is unexpected for a format designed to deliver superior visual quality. One of the release's strongest features is the new English 7.1 Dolby Atmos soundtrack. Although it plays at a slightly lower volume than the previous 5.1 mix, it delivers a far more immersive listening experience. Klaus Badelt's memorable score is spread beautifully across the soundstage, with instruments moving naturally between speakers while ambient effects fill the room, creating a richer and more cinematic presentation. Additional audio options include an English 2.0 descriptive track and other standard language selections. The 4K edition comes packaged in a standard black Ultra HD Blu-ray case featuring the film's original theatrical poster artwork. Early pressings also include an unembossed slipcover. The 4K disc itself is black with a skull and crossbones design, while the included Blu-ray retains its original 2007 artwork with the familiar blue banner across the top. Inside the case, you'll find a Movies Anywhere digital copy code along with a promotional insert for Disney Movie Club. The 4K Ultra HD disc opens with a language selection menu featuring a silver skull with crossbones in the background. The main menu showcases the film's poster artwork, enhanced with subtle animated effects that give it a more dynamic appearance. The included Blu-ray is the same disc from the 2007 2-disc release. It begins with Disney's Blu-ray promotional intro, followed by previews for The Incredibles, Pirates of the Caribbean, At World's End, and an anti-piracy public service announcement. The Blu-ray menu is especially memorable, featuring an animated skull and crossbones that actually speaks to you as you navigate through the options. As one of Disney's early Blu-ray releases, it offers an entertaining and creative presentation that many fans will appreciate. Unfortunately, Disney missed the mark with the 4K Ultra HD release of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. The included Blu-ray actually feels like a more faithful representation of the film's original color grading, While the 4K version suffers from heavy digital noise reduction that noticeably impacts the image quality, this classic film deserved a much stronger and more respectful 4K restoration. Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl follows the adventurous Captain Jack Sparrow as he joins forces with the resourceful blacksmith Will Turner to rescue Elizabeth Swann, the governor's daughter and Will's true love. She has been kidnapped by the feared Captain Hector Barbossa and his pirate crew. What they don't realize is that Barbossa and his men are trapped under an ancient curse that condemns them to an eternal existence between life and death. The only way to break the curse is through a blood sacrifice. This has been one of my favorite movies since childhood, and it remains just as enjoyable today. As pure popcorn entertainment, it's hard to beat. In fact, I appreciate it even more now that I'm older because I can better recognize everything the film does so well. Calling it the greatest pirate movie ever made might not be completely fair since I haven't watched many pirate films outside the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Even so, it's easily the best pirate film I've personally seen. The movie had one important job to entertain and it succeeds brilliantly. Most of the jokes land perfectly, and even the weaker ones work because of the charm and chemistry of the characters. Captain Jack Sparrow is undoubtedly the heart and soul of both this film and the entire franchise. He has become one of my favorite characters in cinema history. Johnny Depp was born to play this role, delivering a performance that feels nearly perfect. While the entire cast does an outstanding job, Depp stands above everyone else. This remains one of the finest performances of his career. The film excels in nearly every technical aspect. The production design is outstanding, creating a rich and believable pirate world. Hans Zimmer's music complements every scene beautifully, adding excitement, emotion, and adventure throughout the film. The cinematography is equally impressive, especially during the darker, horror-inspired moments, which are both eerie and visually stunning. The movie balances adventure, fantasy, and horror remarkably well. Captain Barbossa is another highlight. What makes him such an effective villain is that his motivations are understandable and believable. Although he isn't the most complex antagonist ever written, his goals make sense, making him difficult to completely hate. He's the kind of villain you may not root for, but you can certainly understand. One of the film's greatest strengths is that every major character has a clear objective. Jack Sparrow wants to reclaim the Black Pearl. Will Turner is determined to rescue Elizabeth, and Barbossa is desperate to break the curse. Because everyone's motivations are well defined, the story feels natural, engaging, and consistently compelling from beginning to end. Some fans may have forgotten that Thea Zoe appeared in this film in the smiley sporting role of the Anarmia. This was earlier Hindus Jana's career before she had made much of a name for herself given the negative experiences she had during filming. It is not surprising he did not return for future reinstallment of the franchise. She insisted she was great to work with. Salana was persuaded made with such a large production. She claimed she was disappointed by many people because of her smaller role awareness given how successful his franchises have been for Disney. It's surprising to learn that the studio initially did not have much for Thea's first film. In fact, Disney's president Michael Eisner was ready to cut his losses and shut down production. Art was already underway after Show Country was a critical and financial disaster. Eisner started to have second thought about turning theme park into the movie. He was ready to pull the plug on Thea's film, but the actors showed him some concept that can saved him day on the night track of you with some moral element but also with some strong beer and god element, a couple British accents and about you light exclamatory fa profit, plenty of action violence, handsome Korea violence including images of Hank Baja by sword fighting, a point black-eyed people, explosions, pirate thrown through a leaving skeleton man, frightened young woman, skeleton man, the dead soldier and other people. Pirates are gabomas to capture the holy king spirit of the old pirate movies that the Hollywood shows it to make. Johnny gives an inventive performances as a rock pirate with spirited help from Orlando Bloom or the Lord of the Ring, and knightly form a bandit-like men as a swashbuckling hero and her endear carefree as a pirate villain that plays Captain Jack Sparrow, whose life is turned upside down when his nemesis Agility Captain Barbossa played by Rasha Sparrow find high's weight to be bored Rella, where he is abruptly placed in a but now without a struggle Barbossa and his men interrupted Sparrow's scheduled hanging vent to the port and kidnapped Ago's beautiful Elab played by Can Knightley. Elab, our childhood friend Wilbury played by the Orlando Bloom, joins forces with the Sparrow to be Commander Ashipa in a silent attempt to rescue her and recapture a Black Pearl. Pursuing them his Commander Norrington, a Din officer who seeks the Elsina hand in marriage. Joe Anquiza delightfully performs as a Captain Jack Sparrow instead of portraying his character as a swashbuckling error flying type. He acts as if he's always slightly crazy of Dipsy. He does however always have one thing on his mind: how to get his back by hook or by crook. The Black Pearl represent freedom to be Jack, and his harp of freedom encourages him to be clever. The centric performances might have sunk a laser movie, but it actually leaves row from Orlando to Bloom and Toa push the heroic perspective via an Elsa bad character. Elsa shows a concern for her by offering herself as a host that his Barbossa and his man will leave them on alone. Will is me in love with Elsa and he's receive everything to rescue her. Early in the movie he and have a brilliant sword fighting Blue man and Knightley a rising star. His strong performance help keep the movie going. Even when the story lag, now a pirate movie would not be pirate movie without a sneaky villain. Pirate Harry Caribbean has only a Captain Barbossa play to be healed by the talented Grey Rajrashri Lashes, and his role with he lacks a truly dispressible film. Mal is the scene of jaw party of some of your Rash's performances had to be movie fun spirit. Pirate of the Caribbean has generated some controversy because it is the first Disney movie to be released with a PG-13 rating. And Disney decided to release a movie with a rating anyway because they did not really want to be any out of sketch scene or violent scene at the rating boards that qualify the movie for a PG-13 rating instead of a PG. The film might be too intense for 6 years old. He added the tended controversy for Bible-believing Christians and join the circles that has doomed Captain Barbossa and his men to be living a skeleton. The pagan occurred aspect of his part of the movie spoiled morality of the element, which also could have been a much stronger even with the curse and the scatter of left in the story as a stronger ending might have been fixed to this problem or greatly reduced. Nobody expected the Ride of the Carers or Thea Black to be much of a success for Hossa based on the theme park ride, which sounded like a bad idea. He over the cryptid Johan was not really as considered a reading man, a material and excellent actor, but perhaps not to be right a person to hold and franchise him. And thirdly, while pirate movies just were not making money at a few earlier was an infamous box office blog, but lo and behold the curse of the Black Girl was not just a success, it was a culture feminine and a great movie to boot. From the first minute Toby film you already believe you are back in the early 18th century. The ancient detail is remarkable, from the weapon and the creativity outfit to the huge Ebola king that is setting in China is famous for. The film open with a young husk. The only survivor is a boy haired with a pirate in medallion around his neck. Villager, the character in his film, area memorable and have become iconic for his own, while he's a dashing love interest to be ladylike but and I reckon Orlando Bloom gets a lot of fanfare hate for his role in this series. So his performance he's perfectly fine, and his appearances is reminiscent of the great Silvera the Green actor of the 40s and 50s, along with the fly. Knightley is also mad and does not nature dial in distress. She can kick ass when she need to be, and he holds her own against the pirate. Thea film is most famous for introducing Thea world to Captain Jack Sparrow. Wad inductions Johann Dab's Captain Jack heroically drifting into depart in most of the sinking ship perfectly describe as him in just a few short. Captain Jack also been done to be dead by them in fancy dress costumes, so it's easy to be fragile just how new his character felt. That also Roger wrote in his review of Kimbista that his performances is originally Ina the Seriatama. There has never been a plate for Baja material a human being like this is an other movie, and even no over decade later he is one of the most entertaining a character Poe film. Perhaps the sequel go to for his backstory or take away some of his mystery. We'll see in the coming a week, but as a descent in the curse of Thea Black, the character is perfect. A lot of criticism for this room that I have seen seem to be drawn from Thea action scene. The frightening ice is specular, but many because I will lie there are no street in the set for me. These just ramp up to tension toward the end of the film. The evil crew of the Black Pearl, both as the Interibas and Jack, you may know that neither can drive, but they still airing fire to be watched, and it's more about how Thea will defeat the bad guy who killed Ho. I think the SW fight in this film are excellent. Director Gagan action like anyone else, and his film gives us a look at us as Toa become. The fight in the blacksmith shop is perfect example of this type of action, handled so well, with Toa characters balancing on something and fighting each other, being thrown out through the air, running around you. Toa see. You never lose sight of the playma and the same, and you never become confused as to what exactly happening. Use the space and you make the most of this action scene. Another criticism often labs justify at this film, perhaps a more justified for the sequel, is that Isa overlong clocking in at 143-minute. Isa certainly not a short film, but is an epic adventure through that room, introducing the potential world of a character. None of the scene feel dragged out, but it's so much fun spending time with these few and interesting characters that dominance fly by. A lot of critics seem soon to be thinking if that was a 90-minute B-movie it would be better, but that is not. This film is a grand fantasy with even bigger characters that need to be spaced to be really shine. A few have pointed to the end of the film as an example of him being overshot as carries on, but this scene is by far one of the best, will saving Jack from the gallows. Capture the adventure filler without a movie perfectly set, a great affair to be ended. The story feels like a classic swashbuckling bunch of greedy pirates cars to go, but the rule of God are established well, and the characters being played at is very interesting to watch. This is held by the CGI watch aged very well. Thus in Barbossa Waka from the dark cabin into the Moon Knight, changing from Joffrey Rush into a Dakara walking skeleton in spews. When I saw it in the cinema, Thea spokings of the evilness is heavy regretly by pitching a return, letting it be just that a little bit more scary and violent. Thea sag to be film is better than I remember, with lots of funny line and lot of nice theme running throughout, where he Isa that being in firstly strong element of that truth about his father's centrality throughout, but not revealed until at the end, so it does not feel like explosion but instead intrigue to Thea plot. The same is true of Busa and Jack's backstory. A special mention should be given to the music. I know that Isa famously similar desire to be broke gladly about when it first kicks in. Also Jack's swing away from a board of Ripley fire. The music was made for this film, did not need to be this good. It's based on the ride, so if it was just the Regia, people would have been surprised. But Ida was one of the biggest films ever, and Ida was actually great. The film is above all else very well made. From Thea directing to big acting, it's all superb, and it all work together to make you something amazing. I am a sucker for a costume epics, especially those of Thea swinging nature. You know, a film that managed to be mixed up and production a design with just the right mixture of action, garner flair, and in the cheeky humor. Films like The Tree Muster Lasers, a company from the 70s, man shows Thea Prince bad in pretty much anything, is staring the late Oliveira as a dark generata of the Caribbean. The Curse of the Black Pearl managed to become close, never quite reaching this pencil that would qualify it as an epic. Nevertheless, Ida present itself as an entertaining summer division with a keen sense of style. A few wonderful turn by selected cast member and some generally eye-begging special effect. The story is a fairly simple one, revolving around a constant of love, bad age, and others a curvy stone and for good mayor, as well as a requisive quest for self-awareness, self-fulfillment on behalf of the hero, unfold as a royal ship-bearing governor's Vian is his very young daughter Elizabeth makes Ida way to be dawn of power along the way, and they encountered are by kids of a sheep and rescue a lone survivor. Flash forward several years and young Willow realizes Bodier Bloom has become Ian's blacksmith and a swordsman. As also in love with the slaughter, now a portrait of Big, who appears more than a strikingly resemblance to an ordinary man with a blonde hair. Naturally, Thistle being a pirate movie and all the action is shift dramatically with the entrance of the century Captain Jack Sparrow, pirate of the high seas and a mysterious instigator if he were one. Soon after Sparrow's arrivals, young Johnny find himself not only betting the arrogant welcoming tone for Asaba affection but also engaged in the dark comp of the bloody parade led by the well-captured by Abusa. There is a curse of the course Audigo to be deal with in term of the acting, that easily steals the show, delivering quirky performances that has been taken around like a flamboyant dandy with cerebral. He are a combination of luster will be almost drank and posting a continual smile on extravagance. These are combined to be raised area considerably in term of spirit market wideness found in his pastoral, yet where he so present about his performances of the fact that he could easily have breached out the top and got away overboard instead of playing just his side of the literally attaining on this. The result is an in-spirit turn that is equal part camp and disarming aloofness. Tr inspired as for the old Andrew Bloom, he could very easily have been burdened there. He is a comfort by the god of playing the street man to be eccentric pirate. Yet young actor is to be jealous playing a so star with a sophisticated job. He not off bad swordsman. Rash is equally a hypnotic, has a deviant Barbusa utilizing a soyably swarming kill in his eyes of fabarious effect. The rest of the class is solid, somewhat John not to story almost official and British Nickel Commander is by the book, yet also instilled with a sense of humanity which is rare especially for this type of star character. As for the pirate, the Tom men's name once are portrayed by Magnus Agro and Lee Alenberg, who do their best to fumbling and hardy abort and Costa et al. And lanky that a shortened squad of a mixed bag of block with bad commander into their minga. One of the major surprises of the film too much. One of the highlight comes in a form of cutting edge and skeleton effect by the form. Yes. There are skeletonism as you don't have scattered from the trail saturating board elevation and stand to the realism of the walking bag of the bone is beyond amazing, elevating the effects pioneered by R and Sign Momenta to be another level of intensity area. Together there are several sequences involving the generated secret that area simply mind-boggling not only in theater execution but in term of oral thea appear. In fact they come off so relevant at first you ask them of being a crow and then your brain begin to grab them, and the energy that went into making the skeleton movie does such relaxica humanity that your jaw drops. A few 3 or season of the close to hit the biggest screen again this summer, and the effect that they are delivered with such a sense flair makes them even cooler. Despite solid name and some wonder the film is now without it, with the film for foremost in the execution of some of the fight sequences more often than naughty or sort of up close and to be watched over the swinging and to make the action come of the collector. An initial spar between the turnaround Sparrow is a primary example of the blur technique that literally removes all player from the fight. Additionally, as some of the scenes specifically the bombard and a portrayal they should be heavily on RXC-graded explosion, throwing bodies. There are so many genres short of day exploiting on the people flying that is the most using the same approach over and over again. There are also some minor editing flaws in terms of several scene card. These shift some of the rather choppy enough to create a sense of smooth transition from scene to be seen. As a result, there are a few of any and sometimes confusing scene shift, especially when a change from action to be drama or when your local move from land to be sea. Yet in spite of this sloppy moment, the film still has enough for an engaging local avoided to keep your eye fixated on the screen. The actor along with the screenwriter Theda Elliott and Italy have not really brought anything new or surprising to the table. In fact, both the directions and the story are pretty today. But thanks to the wonderful wideness of depth, a balance audio Bloom's classism ranging of the male violence and some catching effect on July 93 Netflix and Jerry Obrella of the Caribbean to be a nationwide director go adaptations of the Disneyland open to be $13.50 million, marking the best witness opening of the year since the previous Disney film based on the one of the theme park attraction was unreparable. The Contrive of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black World is surprisingly not bad, Parancia. The filmmakers are open legend and lord of the parrot life, a high seas ambitious emotion of gold captain, a dancer's drunken sailor, bedroom brawls, ancient curses and a furious swip. So the film pays MTMC as a tribute not only to be one of a Disneyland most popular right by those swashbuck who once saw a giant, and those are mostly associated with animation, and it is one time when a cartoon approach in live action is exactly right. The movie's flame point of personalities and a tongue-in-cheek action push that involve how high can we do over scumming to be sheer illness. This $100 million plus production is stylishly directed by and lavishly produced by Jerry Rocky, has the making of one of the summer's big hit. The film includes a number of scenes from a Disneyland, right? Such as imprisoned a pirate trying to become sad dog carrying a jailhouse gift tower to you to drug a starving rest, but the smartest bearing and one of the best told visual effect is a living stat. The curse out a little thaw that occurred when Black Hatred Captain Barbusa relieved Swallow pilot Captain Jack Sparrow not only of his command but his ship the Black Belle and his treasury, leaving him came to die on a China. Sparrow mysteriously survives, and as the movie opens sail into the Port Royal Harbour in a little mo and dingly. What Sparrow does not learn and a chill delighted is that Pierce the treasure carries a cursed at home. His former crew as the undead only moonlight revealed to them as living skeleton. Preparing the Sparrow to retrieve the gold. This is the last piece of deep blended fisheries area completely restored along with the payment of a blood tap. The curse will left Miguel also kidnapped a medallion's owner as the best friend of out the corner. Tumina pursued a black girl hoping they rescue Edith's dam with a blacksmith and a childhood friendly in love with her and a coming John who Francis himself his fiancé. Despite his bloating a pirate will join forces and Sparrow the Thea Forest in the British flag hope to break the scars the state of a series of surfaces of the Formica action and effect. The attack on Thea reported will the escape of Sparrow and will see battle between the Black Pearl and another vessel, no less than tall climaxes in the Torch lead and gave and the most impressively moonlight battle between the British sailor and pirate skeleton. Actor try out to be a range of salsa that pitches much of the dialogue in a sea of the confusing accent. However, a death takes opposite approach with theaps of every line and an accentless accent. This is a charming result in a light-hearted manner of a man who has hit her been in the sun too long. I know a something to one else perhaps as a part of Rashi comedy in his Willy villain. Nally continued to be displayed athleticism exhibited in bandit-like Gagman as a Damel who is able and willing to be fired in a sky with a bee of men, and Thea Closer as a tradesman in the movie Bloom attack his role with a band of a man who only hates pirate because paw blood races in his vein. The large cast are consumed and made up as a 50 and a sinister the day gives energy to be everything. There are many swollen cakes among his glue. The parrot forever gets dressing his father's eyes. The parrot trained to speak for its mutal master. The series of fetching Venturia would leave a slave to Bispar Fori Passerki, and the production designer Brian Maurice managed to be conveyed ugly feel of the original Disneyland that we are in a dark world where we safely gasp and giggle at it. The outlandish villain and his savage arise badless music is a timey over the top, but he take his cue from a production the business sarsably. Next up in Disney self-floating is the haunted mansion in Vesta Never Tackle. It's a Small Word Honey originally published in July '73. Actors try out a range of salty that besit in a sea of confusing accent. However, Ajab takes the opposite approach with a priest's engraved as an accentless accent. The place he is a storming rascal in the light-hearted manner of a man who has either been in the Suna too long or knows something no one else does. Year after year, lazy poses quiet to try to be convinced. Or this is that our latest blockbuster movie is a roller coaster ride. Pirates Saudi Caribbean. It is an actual fact in theme park attraction, a slow-moving aboard passively a detailed Biafrian sketching hope you lost gasping for forbidden treasure note and the most likely base material to turn it into a cinema gold, but producers Jara proves yet again that he speaks again. Arkham is where sheer entertainment is a concern. The Pirates of the Caribbean is without a doubt The best blockbusters of Thea Summer Sopajoy commercial waters by keeping Thea romance adventure and come on Indigo Lakila if there's the slightest sneaker to be ahead is probably died of swinging requista sequences. Don't really lay down a challenge to the old or Robin Hood Buddha such care are set aside by Roe King of Fa Pirate Lord with gas secret identity and an effective betrayal and loyalty to keep up on a showdown as sparky as a frecklessa in a blackguard whisker. It's also very funny. Should I gradually as they did fair but on the comedy mop is Johnny Depp inspired him as Captain Jack Sparrow that really marks the spot. Jabaria going that pirate rock star models whose entire performance is on Keta Richard after Rolling Stone it's there's SL in every drug-fired waggle every head there's an endearing the dignity to be Sparrow's hunger for fame yuri without doubt that as pirate I have heed of says one of British officer yes replies Zach but you have heed of gloriously over the top fussy performances only as high as a film's a fun factor itself in Russian and verbal delivery others clearly having a ball while gigging into Reina in Low Dash with his banjo captain a Rodangia group without a previous formula to adhere to franchise has to maintain the spine of pride exists already pirate level and his freedom to address his own thing. That said, its adventure style is inapted to the dislikes of the radio and of the Lost Ark and the Mommy and its mix of the maintaining action and horror dead wants in the gear shaking from the room. The ghostly figures on the black pearl arc is there between the living and dead, when they step into the full moonlight, they roaching fresh and born becoming a visible adding a light for to proceeding. Best of all, Pirate is a film that prides itself on lively detail and top-grade craftsmanship but does not take itself too seriously. There's a lesson that nearly every one of its blossom would do well to be take on board. Others are not enjoy the feeling that they should be having fun. They simply are having fun because the movie is to a Caribbean Dead Man's debuted to an estimated 62 million domestically our Memorial Day weekend along with a 12th largest international box office opening ever with about $228. But how does a few pirate film be staggered up to be Jack Sparrow a previous? Take a look below to see how a Pirate of the Caribbean film box office compared in regard to be opening a weekend both adjusted and unadjusted for inflation as well as sort of worldwide gross numbers box office should be estimated hold for man not opening a weekend. It will still have the second lowest opening of the entire period size, both adjusted and the unadjusted for inflation. That man no jail Maya actually have the lowest opening? Final box office numbers are adjusted below $62 million which is adjusted opening weekend for the original Pirate of the Caribbean released back in 2003. The first film is also the only Pirate released in the less than 4,000 theater. That means test region is having the biggest opening weekend. Unjustices and adjusts will continue to hold either regardless. Our actual box office return while it is also likely to stay on top in terms of total worldwide gross having made $1.0707 billion in recurrent that a man not global so far is about half of what it has of the Black Girl Maiden of the franchise Maiden Voyage. The fifth pirate film has pulled in approximately a $77 million so far and is set to be continued blockbuster. It re-release as a summer movie season continue to roll out. Wonder Woman, Emmy and reopen in the next 3 consecutive week with the Transformers. The last night also opening before end of June to be a continued competition for Pirate Order Month. After 20 years it's a clear that Pirate of the Caribbean the Cursey out to Black Pearl is indeed the movie a classic even if it is an imperfect film arriving in the summer of Tree the film pass all expectation and is supposed a movie after the flop or 1995 land at the box office to become only of the year's sur and a cultural phenomenon chip code. At the height of that film's success lies Johnny performances of Sculpture and Jack Sparrow. The earlier press suggested that and perhaps going to be with a character but he ended up crafting a movie icon. One enthusiast striking and memorable character who the average person out of the trade is likely able to be named and perhaps even able to be caught where he is extra giving him an edge over Russian Gross Maximus. The gladiators are not entertained. Captain Jack Sparrow might be the most iconic audition movie a character after 2000 core aspect of a Pirate of the Caribbean of Black Pearl is still meeting along. For instance, the general concept of Pirate of the Caribbean remained strong. I recall that Tight Promises was much before the film's release for being based on a theme park ride. Focus and atmospheric animate fire seemed to be automatically confirmed. The common critic of the Jurassic Park that summer blockbuster had become nothing more than theme park right. How can you make a goat movie based on a ride? For starters, director Goen now mostly 40 superbly designed parks, a design most high 7 and his 2002 English language adaptations of his creepy horror hit her head rings lean into the royal atmosphere and creates an again world of mysticism. A tropical island deserted riches na fortress and the pirate lair. The story it contains are the core element, both a visual and narrative of the pirate narrative set by the robot lawyers stand all the way back in 1883 with novelet Treasure Island and a solid fire na second 1950 Disney's production of Treasure Island at the same time also seemed inspired by the gritty depictions of the history and fantasy of the early 2000s. While The Protection is a big Hollywood came out that real ships and a soft consumer days are not in place and that about a field and nothing in a plain and aborted look. The cinematography captures varieties of light and shadow and looks stunningly three-dimensional and expensive. The camera never seemed to be trapped facing only one direction as in many epics from the mid-20th century. Furthermore, if you look past a ride from Disneyland, you will see that the film does not made popular film to refreshen a seemingly outdated convention. We emphasizes and within a new framework of the Curse of the Black Pearl takes an element of the classic swinging adventure antique central love device ghost pirate theory or family action elements such as watch a fight and swinging on probe romance features star-crossed lover divided by a class and the characters on the old Ashima Jared loyalty to be friends and family. All of this is contained within a fantasy pirate world that when the old is swashbuckling for a new era, a big fantasy franchise as a regarded Pirate of the Caribbean cameo over here. The Lord of the Rings concluded and a year after the second Harry Potter film Chamber of Secret, the cuts out of the Black Pearl also utilizes the classic trio, a protagonist formula of 2 male companionship and 1 female seen in the everything form server to Harry Potter to be provide a familiar framework for the characters' interaction. Like Skywalkers will return and is a humble boy who want to be a hero and like Han Solo Jack Sparrow is the charismatic Rojo but who even more so than Han Solo the line between the deplorable villain and the dashing hero. Also followed the Princess Leia Motar for a young woman who is more facing and is punky than the constant of the special and gender role of Yurikana handle. I was lukewarm on Willa and Elsa when the first film come out but now I think they work really well together. Is it all simply my friend is looking back or the fact that we like classically appealing lead and couple or Rancho Bloom and Keira Knightley have good chemistry with each other and if we dab Sparrow but they are so normal enough to be play as a traitor role to the comedic tab. The genius of Fadi's performances is that Isa actually more calculated and as tender reaction at the time Vex suggested. Much has been said about Dev's inspiration for the role such as K. Richard of the Rolling Stone as well as the mode of the performances having element of slapstick in the silent air physical comedy as well as constantly turn with his eyes with a bandana jewelry heavy eyeliner and a dreadlock. I assume looks more or a 1960s than authentically pirate and as a voice for Sparrow sound like he's always on the words of the passing out from too much drink and usually so many aspect of the performances would seem to be filled but today he fuses and all together and managed noted to be over to him for his salvada flavorful mix that is easily bloatably view. It's more possible that Depp could have gone full vein and instead crafted an appealing and endlessly surprising eccentric character. Apart from the lead trio, Thea's supporting cast is also very strong at creating many memorable small characters who would become player to BC Agana in later film as well as some surprisingly rare in particular. I would not give first Sam Axe and Lee Permanent Pirate and John Atina Governor Swan. I also cannot forget the Captain Barbosa whose vocal and financial mannerism absolutely draw and all the prototypical Sadak pirate. Johanna Baron has skinned Treasure Island for as strong as a famous premises and character the film has its weakness. For instance, the supernatural element of the film area uneven. The ghost pilot idea is compelling, but the background about how it all happened remain muddled. Furthermore, having the ghost ship, Thea Black Pearl, come about only 10 years to previously make the legend less impressive and difficult to believe. Having Jack Sparrow and his former ship which is a ghost pirate vessel back under his control is a key plot anchor, but it displays our possible mystery about a whistle rider quickly like a fantasy world with its references to a curse gold are evocatively but never also fully realized as the best fantasy world and space opera comment about a fully Christian's judgment alongside the curses of hidden god would suggest that a range and not entirely to outsend writing the story world. Overall, Willie Gore is supremely capable of luxuriating in a visual atmosphere in the cinematography and set design. This is not a film that luxurious or deeply explored the narrative mystery and the legend. I always found a story overt and unclear, and after multiple reviewings and recent reviews, the plot remains incoherent. There are at least one too many double causes and one too many pursued by ship. After about an hour and a half, we stop trying to understand where things are headed and just want to see if I will come together. It mostly does, but it's not elegant, more like an ungainly unwell gallant than a swore. While the movie narratives remains unclear and overly long, this aspect cannot overshadow the many ways that a Pirate of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl has established celebrated the adventure from the brilliant top performances, thrilling so worldwide, and a great comedy by the Caribbean Territory USA directed by signing play by Chada Elliott and Oyo. There is a nice little 90s minute B-movie trapped inside a 143 minute of Parade of the Caribbean, The Curse Out of Black Pearl, a movie that charmed the earnest and announced it leaves open the possibility of a sequel. The movie feels like it already included a sequel, maybe that explained a doubly brailed ladder. It's a good thing that Joffrey Rush and Joy Dub are on hand to jack up the acting department. Their characters to world-class go to battle, keep it as interested even during the entirely pointless sword fight. Listen, if you can follow me here. Jack Sparrow has a dead for Cap who led a mutiny aboard Sparrow's spirit ship the Blackbird and left Cap Jack down a deserted island and his cuter full of ancient girls that turned them into the undead. But they did look like normal days all over human, but by delight every morning they are revealed are scolded. Now here's the important part, because if they were already dead, they cannot be killed. Excuse me for supplying logic, whereas mean manifestly not wanted, but does not that mean there is no point in fighting them? There's a violent battle at one point between the Black Pearl Kyo and his seller of Royal Hab, and unless I am mistaken by Stellar would all eventually have to be Theta, because the skeleton could just keep on fighting forever until they won. Yes. The only reason I bring it up is that the battle scene actually feel as if they go on forever, and yet a movie medium are time and savor as they plot and enjoy the way Dean Leslie provided a performances that seem nourished by the deep well of nighness, that in the particular seem to be changing a drunken drag of Queen with his eyeliner, and the way he means a show and slaughter his dialogue ever to be insecurently. Don't mistake me. This is not a criticism but admiration for his work. It can be said that his performances is original and its value atom. There has never been a pirate or human being like this is in any other movie. There is some talk about he go too much as sun where he was stranded on Dataland, but his behavior shows a lifetime after rehearsal. His painful display, Consider how boring it would have been if Death had played a role such as an adult line or Fairy Bank might have to take this material seriously would make it unbearable. Sparrow's behavior is so rote to remember sexually comment on it, and yet because it is a consistent and because you can and never catch up making fun of Thea character, it rises to a kind of Thea Cokeman sincerity. She truly loves a handsome young swordswitcher whom she met with both children. After spotting him addictive to and arrived with a golden pallet around his neck which it turned out to be hold it cute to be cursed, Jack's fellow takes a fatherly interest in a young Turner, especially when he discovered who his father was, and that is quite enough for the blow to bloom as well cast in a severely limited role as a heroic straight arrow. He has a classic profile of a silent film star. Knightley you will recall as a best friend of the heroine in a bed like Ia Beckham. Truth be told, she does not generate enough fire to be explained why these work over their life for her, and in close-up seems composed when she showed Smuria the star of the back might have been a more spirited choices. Pirates of the Caribbean of the Black Pearl is based in the theme park. The ride at Disney's World, which I have taken my time. It is also inspired as a ride on the no, but it is tradition of pirate movie and an excellent test department as Bert Treasury a pirate caves by Parrot and walking his the plank. There is a shortage of IE patches and hook. Dr. Dave A. Cressa reportedly planned to be open a pirate stone complete with the plans maybe ordering a Curse of the Black Pearl plays like he's a J-Dream Pirate of the Caribbean produced by the Disney Pro Corporation as a swashbuckling pirate adventure film starring Joanna Barsa, Captain Jack Sparrow, Blazer Geoffrey Raja as Captain Barbossa. Captain Jack Sparrow arrives at the British Caribbean port of the Port Royal with the intention of stealing a ship from the local authorities, but instead end up in prison awaiting the hangman. So knows at this point the real bad guy Captain Barbossa saw the Black Pearl and his band of curs pirate attack Poe and kidnap the governor's daughter, whom they believe hockey to be lifting their curse, the curse of the living. There to be free of the curse of the parrot must feel some of the labors of blood over Stolina as the goat will return, who has been in love with Miss Man since childhood. Captain Jack will find a black girl in an uncharted Caribbean island and successfully rescue her. Captain Barbossa realizes that we're really the one who's the blood they need to believe, so he gives SH and takes Will prisoner. Elabet and Captain Jack are left to die on a deserted island. Their fortune changed when Ilbet murdered his cornera and a troop of the British soldier become involved. Violence was featured throughout an entire film from beginning to end, and the use of violence was present in a realistic manner, such as he cannon battering Navy for people being employed on SWAT, people having a shortcut at the time. The use of violence was set in a chemical slapstick and tongue-in-cheek context. The use of violence was glamorized by attractive-looking hero and heroine who are able to be employed. The use of violence in an extremely effective and stylish manner. The use of violence by the villain Will effective was presented in a less attractive and far more brutal manner. Violence was presented as a spell, a socially acceptable mean to be an and portrayed little real-life consequences such as pain and suffering. Heroes were able to be quickly bounced back from the law that would be patted to most, while table heroes were completely impressed to harm her. The use of violence throughout the film was for the most part portrayed by male. Violent acts performed by the female were less severe than the male counterpart, RTG, a slap across the face and set in a comical context. The heroine on a film is an exception to this and commit at least very violent act for the most part. However, the heroine rated and enacting violent act a clever mean of achieving her aim and outwitting her. The main concern for children until the age of 5 years delay to be supernatural transformation. We are struck by the moonlight as Scar's pirate transform into the growth soaks complete roaching fell and poured rooting upon us. A number of roaching per corpses area seen laying from a rock. Other violent scene included people being impaired in ASW, people being by accident building and ships explode, people behind bar throughout the air as a result of the explosion, bombs exploding. First to fighting the heroine being slapped hard across the face by Captain Barbossa. a gunhead at the head of the heroine, a smart junkie banded by the red hair Hoda iron to make it work around a circle. There were several scenes involving Thea consumption of what appeared to be alcohol. Some images involved a pirate drinking from a hip flask with the interference that alcohol. Other scenes involved a man who had apparently passed out to be expensive alcohol consumption. One scene involved Captain Jack and a heroine on a deserted island consuming a rum and becoming intoxicated. White Bear obviously an associated and saluting days which the behavior was not antisocial or offensive. The hero display remorse the following morning by burning the reminder for some supply in a general fight. The main theme presented throughout the film is a battle between the forces of good versus the forces of evil, with gold tramping evil war. Water evil side is obviously bad. Certain authority figures on a good side displayed at times questionable values and morals such as the abandoning God. Heroes were associate their own need positive value present to parents may wish to be encouraging and goodwill in learning to each other and the people they cared for. Year after years, lazy poster boy tried to convince audiences that the latest blockbuster movie is a roller coaster ride. Pirate of the Caribbean does in actual fact have its root in the theme park attraction, a slow-moving pearlescent skeleton who bet their last grasping a forbidden treasure. Naughty most likely a pays material to turn into the Sangoa, but producer Jerry proves that engaging that he big alarm is where she entertainment is concerned. Director Gowervis is here to a commercial water by keeping months adventure and comedy on an even keel. If there is a slightest to be had, it's probably that the swacking sequences don't really relate on a challenge to the Zorros or Robin Hood, but such gears are swept inside by a rockling tale of pirate lord with Gary S. and enough acted loyalty to keep the final showdown on a sea as a Frere in Black Whisker. It's also very funny. Shrek Roger, Ted, Elliot and Jerry Rossi a spice of the pirate and generous gammy as they did by fairy tale, but on the comedy map is Johnny Depp inspired Drona as a Captain Jack Sparrow that really marks a sport that arguing that pirate with the rock star of their day model. He's in chart performances on Carl Lizard of the Rolling Stone at their in a various SW and every drug wiggle of Thea head. There is an engineering jagged to Sparrow's hunger for fame. You are with the worst pirate I have heard of, says one British officer. Yes, replies Jack, but you have heated me gloriously over the top. Thessy performances are spaced only as high. Also the film's fun fact itself in terms of a physical appeal delivery. It's a masterclass in comedy acting. Devs the show but leaves some plunger for Bloom and Can Knightley Stupa in British cinema. Not a word. Orlando plays a third by Gakar. Other clearly having a ball Willie gigging in the hurricane include Eurofree Rush with his Pancho Captain Ahok heroine and CGI par without a previous formula to adhere to a franchise to maintain the spin of right exist Alregia by it level in a freedom to do it wanting that said his adventure style isa in to be like of the writer of the last arc and mommy is in mix of Daimia action and horror that once antichrome. The ghostly figure on the Black Pearl are cursed to sail the seas in a state out between living and dead. When they step into full moonlight, their outdrawing of flesh and bone become visible, adding a delightful shiver to be proceeding. Best of all, Pirate is a film that prides itself on the lively detail and trope-grade craftsmanship but does not take itself too seriously. That's a lesson that never even won its blockbuster would be take on board. Artists are not into feeling that they should be having fun. They simply are having fun because the movie is though. The actors are there. He is shaped through top commercial water by keeping the romancy, adventure and comedy on an even keel. If there is a slightest to be had, it's probably that a swashbuckling sequences don't really be laid on a challenge to the Zorros or Robin Hood, but such care are swept aside by Rolly a king tale of pirate lord with Kara identifies in enough act of betrayal and loyalty to keep the final showdown us as sparky as a face clerk in a blackguard and whisker. Depp still the snow but leave as a some planner for Orlando Bloom at here clearly running a ball while gigging even the rigging conclude may seem like a phone job to be tackled going in opposite a direction creating a box office smash a sheet film from a classic 1960 so Disneyland write content much hard for example both of a Disney's attempt at creating a haunted mansion inspired a movie never succeeded in a way to match the iconic nature of the ride. Let's not even get started on the contribution tomorrow, however. Pirate of the Caribbean, Jars of the Black Pearl. Miraculously hit every night right now, making it igniting box office heat and launching one of the most successful franchises all based on some drunken animation to operate grab a mention to create one of the Hollywood franchises and is still beloved by a million. But what did I take for Disney to create a box office drone? We are breaking down the curse of making a Pirate of the Caribbean, the curse of a Black Pearl and how much the CISA profited from the film. Remember that the full budget redo project of this caliber are not typically shared publicly and much of the following is based on the reported data, estimations and information based on similar project. The Pirate of the Caribbean a universe would not be what it is today without the Johannes as Captain Jack Sparrow after the box office success of the first Pirate of the Caribbean that began to be earned $20 million for each other from so it can be inferred that his salary for the first was less or still high than average considering the second writer we're specifically writing the Jack Sparrow a character to be played by the staff. The cast also contained more of the early 2000 biggest star Knightley and the Orangea Bloom requiring more big track to be writer while Knightley reportedly earned around $3 to $4 million for the first leg. It is rumored that Bloom might at least twist that amount, however, given the fact that Knightley blinked and you will miss a cameo in the latest 2017 installment or franchise earned here around same amount regard for doing the entire first movie. It's safe to say here surgery glow often regard Blackbird. The Pirate of the Caribbean films have always been a hit terms in VFX moving of this studio and many Oscar nominations they earned for a best visual effect and a cuts of the black. These stunning effects are thanks for industrial light and magic. Disney a VFX company founded by the George Lucas in 1975 alongside his creation of Star Wars even with the star power of the industrial light and magic. The budget of the first movie made it difficult for the writer's mission for a desired effect to come to life. While looking back at his half skeleton crew might not seem impressively by today's standard the creepy characters scale back when the features premiered in 2003 in an interview with the Curse of the Black Pearl writer Terry Rossio said it caused the cursed prayer to be only to be scattered in the moonlight with how the night might fight scene. DJ was expensive at the time. We could not afford for the pilot to be sketching all night long. I was sitting at a table and laughed out loud. Everyone looked at me. What if the pilot or sketching at a night? But only when the moon comes out can we get away with that. They lowered it. Yes, when the budget gets light. We just put a code in front of the moon, and that's what we did. The approved extra tricky of this gets the industrial light and basic core had to be sure that every bite of the pirate clothing hair and necessities matched its skeleton counterpart as for a darkness to moonlight with VFX costing a roughly $2,000 to $10,000 million per minute. It's no wonder some cloudy night in the Porter Willis site you can see in Curse of the Black Bell Cream Hollywood California good chunk was actually shot in and around the Los Angeles while undoubtedly saved some money for the production to be showed in California. There were a few more exotic locations where the gas and crew was showed as well. The island of the Weekend in the Caribbean was utilized as a primary flaming location. Jujuada would be the insane cause of actually having ship that were actively sailing as the main ship interruptless and of course the black wary photographed well on being unmoving a while special effect toy of industrial light and magic were added later to gate all the gas and core Caribbean putting them up in a border plus a cost of fast shooting in the exotic action surely a cause of production a large chunk of it because pirate flicks were considered dead in a due to the recent flop from other studio. It's safe to say the production was probably worried about the success of reviving this channel. It's safe to say that it is considering the Black America stage was a much more relaxed swimming a day when on set in a tropical location away from him. Typically a movie's a remarketing budget in the same as the shooting budget. Using this as a reference point, it can be inferred that Disney spent around that name was Sammy $40 million on the course of the Black Pearl and given turmoil surrounding the film in child production. It's dealt handsomely for capturing Jack and his crew in perhaps one of the biggest marketing moves possible. Disney reportedly spent $2 million on the July 2020 premiere at Disneyland, where Gossett could ride Cash and Ride including Pirates of the Caribbean before and after seeing the new West Disney hit on the big screen. Films to be need to make double their total budget to break even. Thankfully the Curse of the Black Pearl, Thea earned more and their share of Thea double loan after his release along with some extra shiny treasure in the form of Oscar nomination. In a movie's opening weekend, it scored over $46 million going in a movie opening weekend. Ida scored over $46 million going to earn a $644 million worldwide awards running a theater. The nominations include Best Makeup, Best Sound Mixing and Johan as Best Actor. The film has been re-released in theaters so long can get a big screen fix, and while mania sequel tend to be seen as the film has been re-released in theaters so long it can get a big screen fix, and while mania sequel tend to be seen in State of Swim a sequel Pirate of the Caribbean Dead Monostress did not disappointed his predecessor as it crossed $1 billion mark, earning $1.06 so $6 billion worldwide upon its release. Why the Cat Saw Thea Black was the fourth highest boxing feature of 2003. It came in just behind a Disney Pixar film Finding Nemo, which brought in an incredible $71 million. 2003 was filled with more box office hits, classic movies like The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. A lot of anticipations preceded our release of Agar, Pirate of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, and it did not disappoint. This bash tale of lovable Roy Captain Jack Sparrow, played by talented Johnny Depp, saw him an unlikely combat with Turner, a local blacksmith Roy Shakro, to see the captured 11. The standout character has to be Jack Sparrow, that managed to be portray both a bumbling, a seemingly constantly intoxicful and a multi-talented genius on his feet, and always manage to scare him his way out of the water. The centric Captain Sparrow injected an element and a fun daddy film promise, and for jungle viewer he is what glows eye to disagree with his quirky personality. The writers did not forget to take Thea Roman's box either, as a film largely revolves around a somewhat forbidden love between the as a batsman Thea, governor's daughter, and wheelchair Wo has no place in his upper class. Viewers are left on the edge of their seat throughout, wondering whether the pair will end up in each other's arm. A brilliant piece of dish which does not overshadow the rest of the plot, thereby rendering the piece of B to those who don't buy into this love stories. Viewers feel a huge sense of the adventure when watching the character travel across the Seven. Captain Apparabuse and his skill fill the audiences with battle when they see some of the excellent special effect which unveiled the approaching flesh and exposed skeleton, or a very much alive pirate as a visual achieve the perfect formula, a spooky without being gory, so that the film can still be enjoyed by the whole family. The only dimension in all this captivating epic and the arguably unaccumulated ending without spoiling the conclusion of this 143-minute referral. I will only say that the writers may have used a lot their imagination when constructing the body of this room by time there is climax. However, the movie is filled with a load of adventure and surprise, and is a thoroughly enjoyable watch. There is a little 90 minutes B-movie drag into the 143 minutes of Pirate of the Caribbean of the Black Pearl, a movie that charmed that outstanding leaves open upon the possibility of a sequel. The movie feels like it already included a sequel. Maybe that explained doubly barrel D. It's good thing that Guy Rushall and Johan Deck are on hand to jack up Duck acting department. Their characters do world-class go to ball, keep us interested even during the entirely pointless sword fight. pointless if you can follow me here. Jack Sparrow has a deep hate for Captain Mutant Abroad Spyro, my ship the Black Pearl. I left G. They landed on a deserted island by Buse and his kin follow him ancient cars that return needed them into the undead. By day look like he a normal if we salute human, but by the light of the moon they are revealed as skeptical characters. Now here is the important part, because they were already dead, they cannot build a guild. Excuse me for supplying logic where it is manifestly not wanted, but does noted that mean where is no point in fighting at them. There's a violent battle at only a point between the Black Pearl and the sailor of the Royal Nazi, and unless I am mistaken the sailor would all eventually have to be dead, because the skeletons could just keep on fighting forever until they won. Yes. The only reason I bring this up is so that the battle scene actually feel to go on forever. It's fun at first to see a pad fight, but eventually it gets to the point where the sword clashing is swinging and the Chandler shaving out of their pretentious. I also lost count of how many times Jack Sparrow is a helpless captive of both the British and the pirate, and escape from the chain Big Nosy Island and Jet movie made me gain attentive via performances that seem nourished by deep well of nudeness. David in particular seemed to be channeling a drunken drag queen with his eyeliner and the way he minds his assure and slower his dialogue ever, so don't mistake me. This is not a criticism but admiration for his work. It can be said that his performance is original in his value item. There has never been a pirate or father material human being like this is in any other movie. There is some talk about how he got to my son while he was stand on that island, but his behavior shows a lifetime of rehearsal. His peacock in full display. Consider how boring it would have been if Death and Play all the row as straight as an R-bank might have to take this material seriously would make it unbearable. Jeeper is a relatively subdued but only by contrast. He's Barbossa whose state alone would intimidate a conegration of the dentist, bringing a garnishing to an art form. Only the film's PG-13 rating prevent him from doing unthinkable thing to the heroine. Elizabeth, man whose blood is a thought it can flee the captain and he is clear from the curse of the Blackbird. Elizabeth is the daughter of the Viceroy Swan, the governor of Port Royal. Our British base is the Caribbean and seem at a distance to be Mary Gamber Nording. A fate which we enjoyed would add to our lifetime. Our conversation about his conception. She truly loves a handsome young swordsmaid Wilterna whom she met one day with a board of children. After spotting him drifted in a draft with a golden pirate medallion around his neck while turned to behold Toa be cursed. Jack Sparrow takes a fatherly interest in a young Turner, especially when the discovers who has father was and that is quiet in her body plot. Bloom is well cast in a severely limited role as a heroic Arrow. He has a classic profile of a silent film star, a Knightley you'll recall as a best friend of the hero and bandit like the backboot as she had a sparkle tree together lacking a hair. Truth be told, she does not generate enough fire to be explained why these swashbuckle would risk their love for her, and his close-up scene composed when she shoots a Marita of the Caribbean. The car black is based on the theme park ride in a Disney World which I have taken many times. It is also inspired as a right no that wise budget-rich edition of pirate movie and Excel research department as Bert Treasury a pirate gives Pet Pirate and a walking Toa a playing calls a Pirate of the Caribbean produced by Thea Disney's Corporation as a swinging upright adventure film starring up also Captain Jack Sparrow. Captain Jack Sparrow arrives at the British Caribbean Port of Royal with the intention of fast stealing a ship from the local authorities, but instead ends in a prison awaiting the house. At this point a bad guy Captain Barbu Saudi Black Pearl and his band of curs pirate attack the free of the girls. A pirate must some of Elsa bad blood over stolen as good a will share who has been in love with a Miss Man since childhood. Friends Captain Jack from prison with a provision. Captain Jack and Willa find a Black Pearl on an uncharted Caribbean island and successfully rescue her. Captain Barbossa realizes that Will is really the one whose blood they needed to break Duckers, so he gives chess and takes Will prisoner. Elizabeth and Captain Jack are left to be on a deserted island. Their fortune changed when Elsa bears the governor and the troop of the British soldier become involved. Violence was featured through an entire film from beginning to end, At times the use of the violence was presented in a realistic manner, such as ships towing cannons beating Navy for people being impaled on SWAT, people having theory guards added at them. The use of violence was sent in a comical slapstick tongue-in-cheek context. The use of violence was glamorized by the attractive-looking heroes and heroine who were able to be employer. The use of violence in an extremely effective and stylish manner. The use of violence by the violencia, while effective, was presented in a less attractive and far more brutal manner. Violence was presented as socially acceptable means to an end and portrayal of real-life consequences such as BM and suffering. Heroes were able to be quickly bounced back from bone and would be fragile to most, while the evil heroes were completely improvised to form. The use of violence throughout the film was wider in post-part, portrayed by a merely violent act performed by the female were less clever than their male counterpart as a slap across the face and set in a comical context. The heroine of the film is an exception to this and commit at least one very violent act, for the most part. However, the heroine added at inflicting violent act, soft clever means of achieving her aim and outwittingly her rival. People being imparted on SW, people being by a building wing, pirate building and ships exploding. People being hollered through the air as a result of an explosion, bombs exploding. Fast fighting, the heroine being slapped across the face by Captain Barbosa. A gun held at the head of the heroine, a small junkie banded by a red-hot iron to make it walk around in a circle, Sheza batting the way through fierce storm with high seas. Tender and lighting. The main theme presented throughout the film is a battle between the force of good versus the forces of evil, with good triumphing over evil while evil side is obviously bad. 13 authority figures and all the good side displayed at time a questionable value in models such as abandoning the good hero when it suited unit. The use of wireless inhibition and deception trapped continue to attract the readers because they after some trying today's fast moving word clarity in just a few words people often joy in to be quiet to better understand emotion relationships and life differences that can otherwise feel overwhelming. Our phrase line can capture a feeling or a truth that someone may struggle to be expressed on their own. Quote also connect us to the experiences of others, especially those who have lived through a unique journey. They provide perspective via covering of reflection and sometimes even a challenge or belief, whether shared for inspiration or comfort. Quag a small but a powerful reminder that help people pass a him and see the question in a new light. A humble black maid named Wilturna is in love with Elab. The daughter of the governor sees here every opportunity to visit a governor, as it means he gets to see Elab. She soon finds herself in great danger. A pirate ship known as a Black Pearl has made its way to the city. The pirates invade the city and capture as no ordinary pirate. Several moonlight shows their true appearance as they are a crew of immortal skeleton pirate. During the mission, the pirate immediately release a prisoner, a drunken pirate named Jack Sparrow. He was once the captain of the Black Pearl and he wanted to be regain control of his ship. We want to be find that ship and to save us. Why not cross each other? They form an unlikely alliance in order to get what they both want. We quickly learn that Jack Sparrow was a drunken pirate. He was drunk and is seemingly incompetent, but he frequently got in a specular Mr. Make fashion in a live-action Disney movie about immortal skeleton and pirate. Jack's fellow effectively broke up the intense moment. Johnny played his part lessly and he was incredibly entertaining to watch. He was panicked while the Mr. Moggios were around, but he instantly had become rocky once he realized that things had worked out for him. His personality was funny, but he was considered lazy as you would expect a pirate to be. He was not the only season where the movie worked, but I truly believed that Johnny Depp's performances as Jack Sparrow was a main factor in launching this movie into a franchise. Although I didn't dislike Norrington as a character, I never felt he was necessary in a movie packed with far more compelling characters. His role seemed unnecessary. The filmmakers didn't need to give the British Royal Navy a single figurehead when the story already had memorable characters like Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, Captain Barbossa, and the cursed crew of the Black Pearl carrying the narrative. With so many fascinating personalities already competing for screen time, focusing so heavily on Norrington felt like a missed opportunity. To make matters worse, he was never developed beyond being a fairly one-dimensional antagonist. He was in love with Elizabeth, and he disliked Will Turner because of their relationship, but those motivations were never explored in any meaningful way. Instead of spending valuable screen time on a character who wasn't particularly interesting, the film could have simply portrayed the British Navy as a constant threat without giving Norrington such a large role. If the filmmakers wanted him to play a significant part, they should have made his story more engaging and layered. Geoffrey Rush, on the other hand, delivered an outstanding performance as Captain Barbossa. At times his acting was delightfully over the top, but that only made the character more entertaining and unpredictable. He brought Barbossa to life with a colorful, memorable personality that perfectly balanced menace and charisma. Barbossa felt like a truly formidable rival for Jack Sparrow, and his larger-than-life presence made every scene more enjoyable. Another highlight was the Black Pearl itself and the supernatural curse placed upon its crew. The curse transformed the pirates into immortal skeletons under the moonlight, giving them a haunting and unforgettable appearance. In daylight, they looked like an intimidating band of ruthless pirates, but when the moonlight revealed their skeletal forms, they became even more terrifying and seemingly unstoppable. While the pirates occasionally provided comic relief, the curse added a dark, unpredictable edge that kept the heroes under constant threat. The film is never boring, but it does feel longer than necessary. As mentioned earlier, Norrington's storyline could have been reduced considerably. There were also several other scenes that could have been trimmed without affecting the overall story. The sequence on the island, for example, added very little and could have been removed entirely. None of these scenes were bad, but together they made the movie feel roughly 30 minutes longer than it needed to be. A tighter edit would have made the pacing much stronger. Keira Knightley gave a solid performance as Elizabeth Swann, but I didn't think she brought anything particularly remarkable to the role. Then there's the romance between Elizabeth and Will Turner, which initially feels like one of those relationships that exist simply because there's a male lead and a female lead. It seems forced at first, as though the filmmakers paired them together because the story expected it. That said, the romance ultimately works because it serves as the emotional engine of the film. Elizabeth's situation creates the unlikely partnership between Jack Sparrow and Will Turner, giving both characters a strong reason to work together. Personally, I would have preferred the story to focus more on the conflict between the pirates and the Royal Navy, but the romance effectively keeps the plot moving. Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley also share enough chemistry to make the relationship believable, helping overlook what otherwise feels like a fairly conventional love story. The plot is more complicated than it first appears. To fully appreciate it, the audience has to understand Norrington's ambitions, Barbossa's search to break the curse, Elizabeth's unexpected connection to the mystery, and how all of these storylines eventually come together during the climax. None of these individual elements are especially difficult to follow, but there is a lot happening at once, which may be harder for younger viewers to fully grasp. At the same time, the movie includes plenty of light-hearted humor and slapstick moments clearly aimed at children. While these scenes make the film more family-friendly, they sometimes clash with its darker supernatural themes. As a result, the tone can feel slightly inconsistent, almost as if the filmmakers originally intended to make a more mature pirate adventure before deciding to broaden its appeal with kid-friendly comedy. I don't think those two styles always blend seamlessly, and the film might have benefited from a slightly simpler story and a more consistent tone. What ultimately makes Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl so enjoyable is the curse itself. It gives the story a unique supernatural element that elevates it far beyond a traditional pirate adventure. The cursed crew and the Black Pearl become memorable, intimidating villains, adding excitement, mystery, and genuine tension throughout the film. Is the movie perfect? Number. It's longer than it needs to be, includes a few unnecessary characters, and occasionally struggles to balance its mature storyline with child-friendly humor. Even so, its strengths far outweigh its weaknesses, thanks to its unforgettable characters, thrilling action, supernatural mystery, and outstanding performances, especially Geoffrey Rush's brilliant portrayal of Captain Barbossa. It remains an exciting, entertaining, and highly enjoyable pirate blockbuster.